This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill, if you're just getting here. And we're going to talk about the DNC primary, the 2016 DNC primary, and what role Bernie Sanders played in rigging that primary. All right, well, I'm going to give a minute for people to show up, and then I'm going to go into a little bit about what I think about the 2016 primary and what happened since. You know, what happened then, what happened since, and what I think about Bernie Sanders and what I think his role in all of that was. But I would love to hear your side. So feel free to comment and participate in the show, because that's what I want. I want it to be a two-way conversation. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, you know, which is going to be quite possible, about 50% of you probably, at least, probably won't agree with what I'm going to say. But feel free to talk to me about it. You know, that's what this show is about, is having an open dialogue. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started, I guess. The reason, the topic for tonight's show is going to be about the 2016 Democratic primary for president, in which the Democratic primary, as we all know, or most people know, you should know, was rigged for Hillary Clinton. And it was rigged in a lot of ways. It was rigged. You know, it wasn't just, kind of rigged up. He would win states, and then she would have super delegates that would overpower it. He would win the state, and then you would see how many delegates were awarded. She would have 10 to 11, 12 more delegates than him on a state he won. And it was rigged in other ways, voter suppression, sometimes in person, sometimes with Bill Clinton showing up himself at voter places where he's not allowed to be, within so many 100 feet of a voter place, a voter registration, where you vote. I sound ridiculous right now, where you vote. But anyways, he has no right to be there. It's so wrong. I almost lit the wrong end of that cigarette. You were going to watch me do it. But the point of this, what I wanted to talk about, is a lot of people, and I see it all the time, they blame Bernie for what happened in the 2016 primary. They think, I've even seen it go as far as he was involved in rigging it, knew all along, was just a sheepdog all along. He took all of our money, all $27 at a time, and scammed us. I hear it every day. Not a day goes by that I don't hear about how Bernie is a sheepdog, or Bernie robbed us, or Bernie cheated us, Bernie stabbed us all in the back. I see it all the time. And I see it a lot from people that I respect their views. That's what shocks me. A lot of times that's what gets me the most. Most of the time you just brush it off. You know, it's just like, you're angry or hurt. I get it. You know, I get it. What happened in the 2016 primary hurt physically. I went through it. I remember what it felt like. Watching that happen, it was awful. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'll never forget it. But as awful as it was, and as hurt as I was, I got mad at Bernie. I left my yard sign. That was when I took my yard sign down, like 32 seconds after he endorsed Hillary Clinton. I went outside and pulled my yard sign out of the yard and put it in the back of my closet. And it was a long time before it came back out of my closet. I'd say probably 6 months. Before I finally came to terms with what I believe happened. And you can say I'm wrong, and I hope if you're here, hey Charles, I hope if you're here and you disagree, you won't just leave. You'll comment. I want to have a dialogue. I'm open-minded. So this is an open-minded type of show. I'm willing to have my mind changed. If you can show me evidence that makes me believe that Bernie Sanders ran a 30-something year con on the American people, that he was a man of integrity, but actually cheated us out of $27 at a time on a massive scale of millions of us, in order to help get Hillary Clinton elected president. I don't believe that. I think that is so far-fetched, that Bernie Sanders is a sheepdog, that Bernie Sanders wasn't actually trying to become president, wasn't trying to win. That's what you're saying. I believe that Bernie Sanders was trying to become president, wanted to win, was running to win, was not running to be a sheepdog, was not running to be a setup or draw in voters that he could then convert to voters for Hillary. He was running, his whole platform was anti-establishment. We're his supporters. Did we vote for Hillary? You know what I mean? Did it work? What kind of sheepdog would he have been? The type of supporters he brought in, and the eyes that he woke up, and people that he brought to the movement, they aren't the type that would go and vote for Hillary after you remove Bernie from the equation. So what kind of sheepdog would he have been anyway? Let's see, Charles, we got a comment. Charles says, yes, it was awful, but we are much stronger almost 2 years later. I voted for Stein in Maryland, but us progressives are much stronger today. I agree. Oh, well, to a point, I agree. I think we're fractured. We're strong, but we're fractured. I don't think we're as united as we once were. And I think a lot of that has to do with your opinion on Bernie Sanders. And that's going to come into play because, and I could be wrong, but I feel like he'll probably run in 2020. But even if he doesn't, we should be backing the candidates that Bernie is endorsing. He's laying the groundwork for us to have our revolution, which is all he ever really promised us to begin with, that it would have to be us, not him. He ran to win. I believe he ran to win, but he didn't win. Whether it was a legit win for Hillary or not, he lost. And let's back up just a little bit. When did Bernie's attitude change? For me, what I believe when I saw a different man was right after he met with Obama. After that meeting with Obama, he seemed different, and soon thereafter he endorsed Hillary. I believe he had a sit down and was led to know what was going to happen. There was no way around it. Hillary would be the Democratic nominee. No matter what. Didn't matter who delegates showed up or what counts were won during the day. Didn't matter. Wasn't going to matter. From that point on, after he's been told that, or after some kind of realization happened, I believe I saw a change in that guy and that man. He acted different from that point on to me. And I think people would agree. From the time he met with Obama, Bernie acted differently. And that's when he endorsed Hillary, is what I was going to say. That's when all the Hillary stuff started. And he did that reluctantly. When you look at, if he was a sheepdog, let's look at if he was a sheepdog, and he loses to her, and he endorses her, which he did finally endorse her. Wouldn't he come over with enthusiasm and be like, hey, guys, I know that you wanted me to win, but I didn't win. She's going to be great. No, he didn't come over like that. He was just talking about his platform and what parts of his platform they had put in their Democratic platform. He was pushing what they had agreed to fight for. He went right back to work doing what he's always done. You know, it makes no sense to me to be mad at Bernie Sanders over the 2016 primary. Like I said, I was mad for a little while. I was hurt. At first, I was mad at him. I felt like he betrayed me. But then I thought about it, and I thought about it more, and I kept thinking about it. And the longer I thought about it, the more I came around to believing that there's something I don't know. There's something I don't know that happened. And it was made clear to him that no matter what he was to do, Hillary would be the Democratic nominee for president. So the only thing left for him to do would be to leave and run third party. And we all know that he had already established he wasn't going to do that. And I still don't think, even though it would be great, I still don't think he'll run People's Party. I think he'll go for the Democratic nomination. I think he wants to reform the Democratic Party because, sad but true, there's only two recognized real parties in this country. Until the Green Party has established itself, which is going to start bottom up, you're going to have to establish yourself from the bottom up. Until that happens, you cannot have any aspirations of winning the presidency. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. So, or major Senate seats, Congress seats. So it makes more sense to take over the Democratic Party. Bernie's plan makes sense. Let me see what Charles says. He says he showed the people that candidates don't have to accept corporate campaign money. Sure, he could have got dirty with Hillary, but that is not his style. Yeah, exactly. And Charles makes a great point. Bernie may have lost, and you can think what you want about the loss. I, for one, don't think there's any way possible that that man was involved in conning us in any way. I don't think so. I just don't buy it. It doesn't ring true with me. I don't feel like that's a possibility. But I forgot where I was going with this. I was hoping there'd be more people show up to talk about it. I must be on. Is Tim Black on? I have a bad habit of going on when Tim Black's on. I bet you $1 that Tim Black is on right now. Either that or just nobody wants to talk about this particular conversation. But I find that I'm running into it a lot. People bashing Bernie. And I don't understand how you could think that he had something to do with rigging that primary. I believe that he knew he was running in a rigged system. I'll meet you halfway. I believe that he knew he was running in a rigged system, but I believe he thought he could beat it. He could beat it or at least expose it, and he exposed the hell out of it. And just because he didn't come out on TV and still hasn't come out on TV and said, yes, they rigged it. To my knowledge, hasn't come out and said they haven't. I wasn't able to find an example of him saying it. I looked earlier trying to find an example of it. I could be wrong. The only examples I found, he just dodged the question. He never came right out and said, no, they didn't rig the primary. Charles says, I think the Green Party is on 30 or 35 states, so they are truly the closest to be the third party challenge. Lesser of two evils isn't going to get it. No, I'm not saying don't vote Green. I'm saying they got no chance on the presidential level. And the reason for that is it's not a fair playing field. It's not a balanced playing field. They can't even get into the debates. And I don't believe for a second that Jill only got 1% of the vote. You know, there's a lot of rigging that goes on in our elections. It's rampant. It'll come out reports about dead people voting, and no one gets up in arms. The news may do a little quick story about it. That'll be the end of it. Why? Why don't we care about something so important as an election? We should. You know, the Democratic primary, okay, they argued in court, they had the right to rig it. That's their right. They can choose the nominee. They don't have to follow any rules. They're more of an organization. They're not tied to any laws. So it's perfectly fine for them to rig it, is what they're saying. They said they can pick what they actually said was they could pick the nominee in the back room over cigars. So they weren't interested in denying that they cheated, just more that Jared Beck had filed in the wrong court. He filed the wrong kind of lawsuit. So the judge really had no choice but to throw out the case. It wasn't that we didn't have a case. It's just that the lawyer made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. It's a pretty big mistake, though. But, you know, I'm not denying, and I don't think anybody can deny, that the 2016 Democratic primary was rigged. What I don't believe is that Bernie Sanders was involved in rigging it. I think Bernie Sanders was a victim of that rigging, just like we were. I think he went into it knowing it was rigged. I'll give you that. But I don't think he conned us. I think he thought he could beat a rigged system, that he could beat it with overwhelming force. He would get enough of us inspired. He would bring out enough of us that the numbers would be overwhelming and they wouldn't be able to ignore it. Now, he kind of did that. He accomplished it on one front as far as voting. And even with voting, we weren't able to keep her down. But I believe, and this could just be me, he could have already been told, if my theory's right, he could have already been told, hey, get out of the way. You know, because if you don't get out of the way, we'll move you. You can't stop this. There's nothing you can do. She's going to be the nominee. And we're going to do everything to make sure she's going to be president. No matter what Bernie Sanders was to do. So if he came out kicking and screaming, they're rigging it, they rigged it, and first off, the press would have made him look like a fool. The press would have made him look like a sore loser. They would have ate him alive, and you know it. Anyone that wanted Bernie to come out and still wants Bernie to come out and start ranting and raving about how they rigged the primary knows that the press would eat him alive. You know deep down that that's what would happen. He would become, they'd make him into a crazy conspiracy theorist. Just like me. Just to be dismissed. He's a sore loser and a conspiracy theorist, and they'd write him off. And that'd be the end of Bernie Sanders. Wouldn't be effective anymore. He wouldn't be able to be in the role he's in now as the DNC outreach chair and be on the TV all the time. Going around, on top of that, going around and having, town hall meetings with regular people all over the country, informing them about things like Medicare for All, informing them about what happened, how come Trump lied to them, how come what Trump told them was going to happen isn't what's happening, breaking it down to these are Republicans that would vote for Bernie. Bernie is our best and strongest asset right now. And that's why I don't understand why anybody would be attacking him. Anybody that's part of our progressive movement, why we would be attacking our greatest ally and our most powerful ally. Bernie Sanders is our most powerful ally. And that man looks crushed. And look at his wife. That doesn't look like a man who helped rig a primary to me. It looks like a man whose heart is broken, who thought something would work, didn't work. It almost did. It almost worked. Then it didn't. And there was nothing he could do. I'm positive of it. I don't believe that there was anything that Bernie could have done. When I think about it and I play out different scenarios in my head, like what would have happened if Bernie came out and started ranting and raving about how they rigged the election? Well, I already went into that. The media would have destroyed him. Okay, well, what would have happened if Bernie ran third party? They would have downplayed him in every poll, made it look like he wasn't polling high enough to get into the debates. They would have, again, ruined him with the media and pulled any media coverage from him. He would evaporate. They would just brush him off as a crazy, sore loser that's running third party now, and they would stop focusing on him entirely. They already hardly focused on him. The attention they gave him, they had to give him. Most of Bernie's momentum came from volunteers and from social media. The mainstream media hardly covered Bernie Sanders. Hey, Steve. Oh, Dolores, you're still here. Bernie had no choice, she says. He knows how Washington works. Yes. And I don't know if you're saying what I'm saying, but yes. I believe it was laid out for him. This is what's going to happen. And made very clear that there's nothing you can do to change that. There's nothing you're going to be able to do to alter it. Hillary's going to be the nominee. And if you don't do what you said you were going to do, we'll destroy you. And they would have, easily. But I was exploring different options. So what would happen if Bernie did run third party? I just got done with that. All right, what would happen if Bernie ran third party? Let's say Bernie runs third party and the media doesn't ostracize him or isn't successful, and he still keeps his momentum through social media, and we're still having 100,000 person rallies, and it's really hard to ignore us, and we're filling the streets and filling stadiums still. Let's say it goes that route, right? I believe they put another hole in his head. That's what I believe happens in that scenario. And I believe that it's made pretty clear to him. He needs to do what he said he would do, which is back the nominee, and that's going to be Hillary. But I think that's where Bernie's involvement ceases, is from that point on, from the point where he was told there's not going to be a fight in Philly. There's not going to be a fight at the convention. You're not going to do that. You're going to stand down. You're going to get out of the way. And then he endorsed her. And that's what he did. But I believe he did it because he had to do it, and it was the only option. The only acceptable option. He's not going to do something stupid. He's not a stupid man. He doesn't have a history of being stupid and making irrational moves. So, you know, Steve says yes in the meeting with Obama. It all changed after the meeting with Obama. Bernie was completely different after meeting with Obama. And who knows who was in there? Anybody could have been in there with that in that meeting. And who knows what took place in that meeting? Something was explained to him, though. And I believe that that's when it happened. But do I believe Bernie Sanders was involved in rigging the primary? Absolutely not. I think it's ridiculous. I think the Bernie Sanders being a sheepdog argument is ridiculous. Because if he was a sheepdog, he was a horrible sheepdog. He ran on a completely anti-establishment platform. He was the worst sheepdog ever. If he was sheepdogging for Hillary Clinton, the corporatist of corporatists, the corporatist queen, oh my God, he did a terrible job. What did he do? He turned everybody against her. He was the worst sheepdog ever. He was running to win. I think that's clear. He didn't run a dirty campaign. He didn't go low. He didn't go where Trump went. He didn't go all the places he could go. We know where he could have gone. You know, there's a lot of dirt all over Hillary Clinton. Dirt and blood. She's filthy. That's beside the point. He didn't go that way. He didn't go at her like that. He went at her on the issues. But he went hard on the issues. And not like a sheepdog. I'm sorry, but he made her look pretty bad on a lot of things and made it look pretty clear how his way of thinking on things like living wage and Medicare for all were the way and what people wanted, were the way to go and what people actually wanted. And she wasn't listening to none of that. She didn't want to even talk about $12 an hour, really. But that's as close as she probably would have came. She wasn't ready to put. She ain't the one that wanted to put $15 into the platform, and it probably wouldn't have happened. Let's see. Is there anybody here that thinks Bernie was involved in rigging the primary, or what do you think his role was? I don't think he had a role in it. I think he knew that it was a rigged game, but thought he could beat it with sheer force of momentum. And he almost did. He came damn close. But I believe that's as far as it goes. I don't think he was involved in rigging it, but he may have known it was a rigged game. I would totally give you that, because he's got to know. He's part of Washington. This ain't the first rigged game. They rig games all the time. They win elections through rigging and gerrymandering and all kinds of weird things. All kinds of different little tricks. And a big one that, like I said before, is dead people voting. And where's the outrage? Where's the outrage? Aren't you even mad that your grandma's still voting? Charles said he did the best he could in spite of it. I think you're right. I think he did the smart thing. He swallowed his pride, did what he said he would do, sat there and took it, even though he looked like it was crushing him at the convention. He looked in agony to me. That man looked like that was a painful experience, sitting there knowing it should be him, that it rightfully was him, that he won, knowing that, and having to sit there with no option. See, look at that. It makes me sad. It makes me sad that he had to go through that, because who knows why. And it makes me sad that people bash him. Because I don't think Bernie Sanders had anything to do with rigging that primary. I don't believe it. Like I said, I'm open to proof. If somebody's here who thinks Bernie Sanders helped rig the 2016 primary, please feel free to comment. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear why you think that. And if you watch this later on, feel free to comment, because I'll still respond to comments. And I want to hear from you. Because I want to know why you think Bernie Sanders sold you out. Why you think he stole your money. Every time I hear that, it just it messes with me. Because it makes me feel like we're doomed. That we can't even recognize our most powerful ally. When it's right in front of our face, we can't even recognize that this is where we need to focus our attention. We need to get behind this man and the momentum that he's created, the movement that he's created. It's been successful. There's been a lot of our revolution candidates elected to office or, on their way. So his takeover of the Democratic Party is going well. So you might not like his idea. You might not like his strategy or the route he took. But I don't believe he was cheating us when he made the decision to do what he did. I believe that he did what he did because it was the only thing to him that he could do. It was the only option, was to swallow his pride and support her against Donald Trump, like he said he would. And he did what he said he did, and did what he said he would. He's a man of integrity. To me, I respect that. And I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Hi, Lori. If you're just joining us, we're talking about, this is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I'm Sean, and we're talking about the 2016 Democratic primary and whether or not Bernie Sanders was involved in rigging that primary. Now, I've covered it pretty well right by this point, but I'll go ahead and recap. I don't think he was involved in rigging that primary. I don't think Bernie had anything to do with rigging that primary. I don't think he ripped us off. I don't think he conned us. I don't agree with any of that. Steve says he changed everything. Before him, the word socialism was forbidden, as well as universal health care, etc. Yes, and he's educating people. Even if he doesn't run again, even if I'm wrong, because he's older. He's getting up in age. He'll be, 79 in 2020? He may not run. Even if he doesn't, he's woken up a lot of people and brought those issues to the forefront. I don't think you could point to anyone else as a reason why you're hearing about Medicare for all in the mainstream media. It definitely isn't because of the mainstream media decided to start telling you about Medicare for all. It's because Bernie Sanders is making it impossible for them to ignore the conversation. He even tricked the Koch brothers into funding a study into Medicare for all, which ended up proving that it's cheaper. It backfired. It blew up in their face. Medicare for all makes more sense financially, as well as being the moral and right thing to do. But yeah, Bernie Sanders still goes, he's still out there every day, not every day, but more than any other politician I've ever seen in my life, educating the public about these issues that are important to your average person. And I do not agree with Bernie Sanders 100% of the time. I'm not giving him a free pass either. Hold him accountable. I'm just saying that I don't think you should hold him accountable for what happened in the primary. I'm saying Bernie played his role, and if you want him to do more, I think I earlier I explained the reasons what I think would have happened with each option of doing more. It wouldn't have worked out. It's nice to imagine that, okay, yeah, he could have stood up for everybody. He could have told everybody it was rigged. He could have fought back. But when you factor in reality and you factor in what our media would have done to him, and you take all that into consideration, you realize it's not as easy as you think. Our system is completely rigged up. It's a rigged system. And he exposed the hell out of that. People that are still asleep to how rigged our system is, they want to be asleep. So at this point, it was right in front of your face. And I don't know why he has to be the one. Why he has to come out and go, yes, they rigged the primary. I don't do Bernie Sanders impressions, but why do people want him to do that? Why is that important? I don't think it does him any good. You know, even if you're right, when someone's cheating, even if the person's right, and they're like they really were cheated, you don't look very good when you're, oh, he cheated me. Even when you're right, you look bad. It just don't. It wouldn't come out good, and it's not going to change the outcome. So, all right, let me see here. What I want to see what you guys are saying, because I wanted somebody to show up that thinks Bernie did sell us out, because I want to hear about why you think that. So if you're here later, or if you're here now, feel free to speak up and tell me why you think Bernie Sanders sold you out, or maybe why you think he helped rig the primary. How you even think that would be possible? I would love to hear about it. Well, let's see. Lori says he said the right thing anyway. It's not about the man, it's about the movement. Absolutely. Us, not me. It's about us. It's our revolution. He just happens to be the figurehead. The figurehead can change. And like I said, the man is getting up in age. He's going to be 79 in 2020. He may not run. We may have to throw our support behind somebody else. But I'm telling you, I'm going to take his advice on who that is. If it's not him, I hope it's him. I think if you're going to beat Trump at this point, you need Bernie Sanders to run. I think the Democrats, even though they won't do it, need to admit that reality, that Bernie Sanders is who beats Donald Trump. And that's just truth. Lori said LOL. I don't know what you were laughing at, but thank you. Lori said my mind changed. I used to be mad at him. Oh, I was mad for a little while. Yeah. Like I said, I left my yard sign up till the moment he endorsed her. And I went out and I took that thing down and I threw it in my closet and it stayed there probably for 6 months. I was real mad and hurt. It was very hard to accept. But there's no way that man was involved in rigging that primary. I don't believe it. I don't believe that he conned us and stole our money. I don't believe that either. And I don't believe that he was a sheepdog. When he ran his whole campaign knowing he couldn't win. Just to what? To get people to vote for Hillary? Then why would he run a campaign exposing her corruption with Wall Street? Spend so much time focusing on how come release the transcripts from your speeches to these banks. Release the transcripts. That's all we really want to see. Release the transcripts. We don't care about the emails. Just let's see those transcripts. I'd really love to see them. They must have been great speeches because they paid you a whole lot of money. You know, we'd love to see what you said to them. I remember that. How is that sheepdogging for Hillary? That's painting Hillary really bad. It's going low as Bernie's going to go. Bernie doesn't play dirty politics. That's about as low as Bernie's going to get with you. But it's factual. It's just that he's not going to bring up her personal life. But how was he sheepdogging for her? Name me a way that Bernie's campaign was beneficial to Hillary. Even when Bernie started campaigning for her on her behalf and having events for her, how did Bernie help Hillary win? How did Bernie guilt or even pressure any of his supporters into supporting Hillary? I don't remember him ever doing that. I don't remember him coming out against people that refused to support Hillary. And I also remember him telling us that I will never tell you who to vote for. And if I do, don't listen to me. You should decide who you're going to vote for. Okay, good, David. Somebody who is, I think we have somebody who is on the side that Bernie should have done more. So let's see. David said he should have spoken up when the evidence came out that the DNC screwed him. A movement without a leader is no movement at all. He should have ran as an independent. If he did, he would have beat Trump. Oh, there's more. The DNC admitted to cheating and favoring Clinton, who could barely fill a room while Sanders was filling stadiums. He was the only person at the time who could have broken the independent myth. But now I wouldn't vote for him. You can't even talk about speaking out about injustice and be quiet about one of the biggest injustices. And there's more, but I can't see it now on my phone. I'll have to look at it later. All right, David. Let me just. How do you think the media would have reacted if Bernie came out and said, "They cheated me. I'm running third party. I'm going to take the Green Party's offer. I'm going to run on the Green Party platform, and I'm taking my supporters with me." What do you think the media would have done to him? I believe the media would have crucified him. Now, let's say earlier I explored this option, but before you got here. But let's say they didn't. Let's say the media doesn't destroy him, doesn't paint him as a sore loser and a conspiracy nut who thinks everyone's out to get him. Ha ha ha. How could they rig it? Remember Obama was on TV laughing because Trump was talking about they were going to rig it. And he's like, oh, that's hilarious. How can anybody rig an American election? It's impossible until Russia did it. It was impossible until then. But I hope David's still here. I noticed people left. But so let's say they didn't. Let's say that he was able to overcome, they would at least, at the very least, ignore him because they were already ignoring him. So, but let's say they didn't crucify him the way they could. And he overcame it through social media and he still kept his popularity and he was going to win. I believe in that instance, they would probably kill him. And is that what he wanted? I mean, I think it was made very clear to him that there's no way he was going to get in her way. That nobody was. Donald Trump wasn't even supposed to win. It was supposed to be a layup for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is supposed to be president right now. We made the difference. We are the reason why Donald Trump is president, which I take full ownership of. And even though I hate that Donald Trump is president of the United States, I'm proud that we stood our ground. Let's see. I hope David's still here. If David's still here, let me know what you think would have happened if he'd have came out. You really think he would have beat Trump and just went on and everybody would have just let that happen? I mean, that sounds really nice. I just don't think it sounds realistic. It doesn't sound like something that happens in our reality. Our reality is corrupt media that's an establishment propaganda machine. And they're very powerful. They have everyone's ear. And our election system is rigged up. The primary's right in your face. But the Republican side's rigged as well. They do their own rigging. There's all kinds of different ways to rig an election, and they use all of them. That's why they have no interest in going to paper ballots or any other kind of system. They want to keep it the way it is because they've got. Don't fix it if it isn't broken. It's working for their purposes. Dolores says the DNC wanted Hillary Rodham Clinton and she felt it was her turn. Yeah. Yeah, and she believed it would just be handed to her. You can tell by the way she ran her campaign. She ran the weakest, most uninteresting campaign I've ever seen. And she thought it was just going to be handed to her. Even Bernie campaigning for her couldn't save her. Didn't make a difference. Sorry, I tried to adjust my chair and it backfired. I sunk. Well, I guess David left. Either that or he's typing. I'll assume he's typing. But I would be interested in hearing what he had to say, because I don't think that they would have allowed him to win. I believe they would kill him if he got to the point where they saw that he was going to beat her. Because it was never about beating Trump. They didn't take Trump seriously as an opponent. That's why he got so much free media attention. Trump was a joke that became president. It wasn't supposed to happen. He didn't think there was any way that he could beat her. And without what happened in the primary, he wouldn't have beat her. She would be president. But they pissed us off. Rightfully so. And we stood our ground. And Donald Trump is now president. All right, well, is anybody still here that wants to join the conversation and maybe feels like Bernie Sanders had something to do with it? Or even if you're here and you don't, I'd like to hear from you too. And we could talk about whatever you want. We've been talking about Bernie for about an hour now. So we could talk about whatever you want. Charles says all those superdelegates pledged her before anyone declared. She only had 3 other candidates in the race. Yeah. No, it was rigged from the beginning. And I agree that he knew that. I agree that he knew that going in. But I think that he thought that he would generate so much momentum, he would beat her. That we would not be able to be ignored. Like he said, it takes millions of people standing up. He said over and over again, it was all about us. If it would have been a massive number of us, if there would have been enough of us that would have risen up, his power was in us. So, unfortunately, not a huge number of us were able to go to Philly. We didn't actually flood the streets. We did really well with the voting. We crushed it there. We crushed it at the events and rallies. And huge turnouts there. But unfortunately, only a couple thousand of us made it to Philly. There was really no army there for the man. If you really think about it, he needed millions of us. And there was only maybe, 20, 30,000. Is Jay here? I was hoping Jay would stop by. But I've beat a dead horse with my theory on Bernie. I don't believe Bernie was involved in the rigging past the point of knowing it was a rigged system. I think he thought he could beat it, and we almost did. But I don't think Bernie Sanders cheated us. I don't think he was a sheepdog. I think that's ridiculous. And if you don't agree, feel free to comment even later on. I will read it and I respond. I would love to have a debate and conversation with you about it, about why you think Bernie Sanders cheated you, why you think he ripped you off. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. That's been conspiracy. This has been Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. And we'll see you next time we have one of these. I don't know when that'll be, but we'll see you next time right here from Politics and Stuff. Let me find. This is always so awkward when I'm wrapping up because I can't use my mouse when I use my speaker. And so I have to use the little touchpad. And I'm so slow with it. But I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for coming.